I know. It's been a long time since I've made a video about this, especially in this series here. I've been working on the script to all these videos, trying to make the scripts as good as possible, just because there is so much information about Qui-Gon Jinn and so much information about the Jedi, and even so much information about Star Wars universe in general, all of which I feel like needs to be covered before I get into my theory and, whether Qui-Gon Jinn is an actual Jedi or if I think he's something else. Having said that, I'm assuming that you can probably tell there's a lot that goes into making these videos, and I would appreciate any feedback you might have. I would also appreciate having your theories about Qui-Gon Jinn and whether he's actually a Jedi as he claims, or if there is something else that you think he is. I do also want to hear from you about other topics that you think I should talk about in future videos. It is my intent that I make other videos as well. I do appreciate all of your thoughts, and I think it would be good for me to reach out to you. I do want to hear from all of you, and I do want to hear what you think. Now, the Jedi Code was a set of rules and tenets in the Jedi Order, and it's a religious order that was devoted to the ways of the Force. Jedi Code evolved over the course of centuries and applied to all members of the Jedi Order, from the Jedi Initiates and Padawans to Jedi Knights and Jedi Masters. Among the precepts of the Code was a rule forbidding the Jedi from training more than one Padawan at any given time. I'll get into that later. The Code also embodied the philosophical ideals of the Order, such as discipline, control, and detachment, and was developed to help the Jedi maintain their devotion to the light side of the Force by rejecting the temptations of the dark side. During the Imperial era, few adherents of the Jedi Order remained as a result of the Great Jedi Purge that all but eradicated the Order. When the Order was rebuilt during the New Republic era, Jedi Master Luke Skywalker trained apprentices, including his nephew Ben Solo. Before I get further into this video, I want to say that I want to hear from you. I know I said that before, but I do want to hear from you. So feel free to let me know what you think in the comments section down below. I also want to tell you about my Discord. The link to my Discord is in my video description, down there. I do spend a lot of time on my Discord, so if you do want to reach out to me or join a community that talks about Star Wars or any other sci-fi, fantasy thing, feel free to join. In this video, I do plan on covering the beliefs of the Jedi, which I partially covered already, but I will do plan on covering everything in a little more detail. And I want to remind you that I did cover the beliefs of the Sith in my last video. So if you do want to check that out, feel free to go to my channel and check that out. I do also plan on making a video specifically about the Sith Order as it was seen in the movies, but that may not come for some time. It all depends on what you want. I do plan on making a separate video regarding the race of Sith as well. If either of these topics are things that you think I should make a video about, please let me know and I will work on the videos regarding these topics. I do want to make videos that you think are interesting, and the comment section and my Discord channel are open for all of you to let me know what you want me to make videos about. There are a lot of things I could cover, whether it's with this theory in particular or with Star Wars or Star Trek topics or even other topics as well. I do want to hear from all of you, and I do enjoy talking about science fiction and fantasy topics. It isn't really my intention to stop talking about science fiction and fantasy topics. I don't plan to stop talking about Star Wars. I do want to say that this theory uses different scenes from the movies, television shows, and books as examples. So I do want to say that there are spoilers ahead. If you want to go into this theory without having anything spoiled for you, If you haven't seen any of the movies or TV shows, I would recommend clicking off now. I do plan on using the movies, shows, and books as a way to prove or disprove the theory of whether or not Qui-Gon Jinn is a Sith, just because that is what we see. If you do want to share your theories or any information about this theory or about Qui-Gon Jinn or even the Jedi Order or the Sith, feel free to let me know. There is a lot of information that does need to be covered, and the more information I have, the easier it will be for me to come up with my theory. Also, I do want to clarify something that may or may not have been previously clarified earlier in this series. This series is going to be referring to specific dates in the Star Wars timeline. For those of you who don't know, these dates are labeled as BBY and ABY, which means before the Battle of Yavin and after the Battle of Yavin, respectively. The Battle of Yavin is the final battle of the original Star Wars movie that was released in 1977. So if it says it was 5 years before the Battle of Yavin, it's about 5 years before the end of A New Hope. Of course, this means that the specific dates and questions take place many years either before or after the Battle of Yavin. As an example, Revenge of the Sith takes place 19 years before A New Hope, so the movie takes place in the year 19 BBY. Put that in context, the Jedi Order was exterminated 19 years prior to the events of A New Hope, but the Empire actually was able to convince people that the Jedi Order did not exist or was a legend by the time A New Hope finally started. I know the intro to this section of this video was extremely long and drawn out, so I want to apologize here. I just wanted to do a bit of setup prior to actually covering this part of the theory, so I didn't have to do it later on. If I continue to ramble on about the same stuff in an upcoming video, please feel free to yell at me in the comment section. That's part of the reason why I keep the comment section of my videos open, so y'all can tell me when I'm wrong or when I'm rambling on incoherently. Feel free to yell at me when I ramble on. Having said that, let's get into what you came here to see. Let's get into this part of the theory about Qui-Gon. Before I get started, though, I do want to say that if you're still watching, let's confuse the people reading the comments by saying that The Wrath of Khan is your favorite Star Wars movie. It should either confuse or annoy just enough people to make the comment section fun. Let's see how funny we can make the comment section. It's all up to you. I also want to say that whatever you do, please do not look at the timestamp of the video down below. Whatever you do, whoever you are, however far this little section of the video is, in whatever time it is right now, all I ask is that you please do not look at the timestamp of this video. It's not like this video is going to be long as hell or anything, and it's not like I cover a lot of information about Qui-Gon Jinn in this video. It did take me a long time to get to this point, and it took a lot of effort for me to be able to get this video released for all of you. I really do enjoy making videos for all of you, but sometimes it takes more effort for me to be able to release videos for all of you. I hope all of you do understand that I am trying to make these videos as good as possible, and I hope that these videos are entertaining for all of you. I have over 100 pages worth of script that I need to film. If you want me to make more videos like this, feel free to let me know in the comments section. I know that I've already said this before, but I also want to say that I am seriously looking forward to hearing what you have to say about whether Qui-Gon Jinn is a Sith or a Jedi or even something else. The Jedi Code was a series of rules and tenets that governed the Jedi Order's actions and embodied its beliefs. The Code taught its followers not to give in to its feelings of anger towards other life forms, which would help them resist fear and prevent them from falling to the dark side of the Force. The Code forbade the Jedi from killing unarmed opponents, as well as seeking revenge Amongst other dictates, the Jedi Code forbade Jedi Knights and Jedi Masters from training more than one Padawan at a given time. Attachment was also forbidden by the Code. Grandmaster Yoda stressed that attachment led to jealousy, greed, and ultimately the fear of loss, all of which were paths to the dark side. Ahsoka Tano also regarded attachment as dangerous and rejected Grogu as an apprentice due to the foundling's bond with the Mandalorian bounty hunter Din Djarin. Notwithstanding the structures against attachment, the Code emphasized compassion as an essential aspect to the Jedi way of life, teaching that all lives were precious. Through outsider misunderstandings of this were not unusual. While Jedi did not marry, generally speaking, the Code banned neither romantic feelings nor familial love. Nevertheless, giving in to personal attachment was tantamount to forsaking the way of the Jedi, the teachings of which had little to do with family relationships. A Jedi such as Obi-Wan Kenobi, trained in the ways of the light side of the Force, could take comfort in the words of the mantra of the Jedi Code. There is no emotion, there is peace. There is no ignorance, there is knowledge. There is no passion, there is serenity. There is no chaos, there is harmony. There is no death, there is the Force. There also existed an alternate version of the Code, recited by Jedi younglings during their initiate trials, and by Depa Billaba during her fitness reassessment after waking up from her 6-month coma. Emotion, yet peace. Ignorance, yet knowledge. Passion, yet serenity. Chaos, yet harmony. Death, yet the Force. There are several other tenets of the Jedi Order that the Jedi do make an attempt to teach the new Jedi recruits. At this point, I'm not saying anything about whether I think these are right or wrong, because that is something for a possible future video. At this point, I just want to say that these are the other tenets of the Jedi Order, and that these may or may not have any sort of influence on how Qui-Gon Jinn acts. The Jedi are the guardians of civilization, yet do not allow civilization to destroy needlessly. The lightsaber is the symbol of the members of the Jedi Order. If a Jedi ignites his lightsaber, he must be ready to take a life. Jedi must put the needs of the community above the needs of individuals. Jedi must always cooperate in battle or crisis. Jedi must not have wants. Self-reliance must be shown. Jedi are forbidden from ruling others, although by the end of the Republic there was some debate over whether or not this was part of the actual code. A Jedi Master may not have more than one Padawan. This particular rule developed after the old Sith Wars, as most ancient masters such as Arca Jeth, Thawne, Vodo Siask, Bas, and Crinda Dre did not have to abide by it. Mitra Surik also trained many apprentices at the time due to their Force sensitivity and the galaxy's dire need for Jedi. However, one apprentice per master seemed to be the standard, around 32 BBY. But due to the lack of masters in Luke Skywalker's academy, several Padawans per master were necessary, as seen in Jaden Kaur and Rosh Pennon training under Kyle Katarn. While the code did not mention a maximum age for taking Padawans, Jedi Master Simkarti wrote influential interpretations of the code that inserted such limits over time. His interpretations of the code became conflated with the code itself. In Revan's era, apprentices were taken from early childhood. After the end of the new Sith Wars, it became policy to take apprentices from infancy, which proved controversial with those outside the order. Conversely, Nomi Sunrider started her training as an adult, as did the apprentices of the Jedi Exile and many of the new Jedi Order. A Jedi does not cling to the past, such as Anakin did when he used bad memories, like when Padme was almost assassinated, to keep his resolve to defeat Newt Gunray and the Confederacy of Independent Systems. The Jedi were well aware of the way the Force, the way the universe was, that everything passes. And for this, they were not supposed to form attachments. Holding on to a person or a thing beyond its time was the path of misery, putting one's selfish desire against the Force. Thus, the Jedi had to let go of everything they were afraid to lose, to surrender attachment to persons and things that passed out of their lives. Anakin Skywalker's attachment to his wife and the fear of loss that flowed through him from all of this caused his fall to the dark side of the Force. And I will use this I'll try to use this as a way to kind of justify at the end. I'm just covering information here. Some Jedi struggled to understand how love and attachment are different. For example, Jinn Atris believed attachment is a loving commitment, and thus it should be encouraged, even founding a sect of his own. Obi-Wan Kenobi struggled to cease his attachment to Siri Tachi. However, ultimately he understood that love was different from possession, that loving her was enough, and the Jedi were teaching him how to live with losing her. Jedi Master Anya Kuro had an extreme view on the teaching, confusing attachment with basic connections. Initially, even Luke Skywalker believed forsaking attachment entirely is unnecessary, feeling that he can't imagine his life without his friends, sister, and wife. However, after the death of Mara Jade, with the help of his son, he understood the teaching, eventually being able to continue on loving his wife, but letting go of his attachment to her. Members of the Order considered each other as close friends, family, and sometimes were truly related by blood. Relationships, since they were easily led to attachments, were discouraged. Nevertheless, in general, romance was considered acceptable, and some Jedi developed such feelings for each other. As Master Trasa described it, romantic love doesn't make someone bad. Doesn't make someone a bad Jedi if the relationship was pure from attachment, resentment, jealousy, and bitterness. The dark side of love. The Jedi were encouraged to rely on their instincts over their mind. They held their emotions valuable, but were also warned to be mindful of them, for they could cloud their judgment. A Jedi had to maintain serene, quiet mind in order to stand on the light side instead of the dark. Thus, they were able to keep the Force within them in balance. Self-discipline was one of the key concepts of Jedi behavior, and Jedi Padawans were taught this from a very early age. The lessons started off similar to what might be taught in an ordinary student. However, as the student progressed, so did the complexity of the lessons. Jedi were required to learn that although they were able to use the Force, they were no better than those who could not. Jedi were taught that they were only Jedi because some had taken the trouble to teach them, not because they were superior to others. And that a Jedi Master was only a Jedi Master because he had disregarded his own sense of self-importance and embraced the will of the Force. Thus, Jedi expected to respect each other and all other life forms. Many young Jedi students, while learning the ways of the Force, began to believe that they could accomplish anything. Many young Jedi died taking on tasks that were far too difficult for them, not realizing that the Force was only truly limitless to those who had limitless understanding. Young Jedi also learned that defeatism was just as dangerous as overconfidence, although it might have seemed contradictory to the goals of conquering overconfidence. A Jedi would first plan for success, then for failure. Jedi who always planned for failure expected to lose and usually only used minimal effort, enough to say that they had tried. Jedi would always have been ready to accept defeat if the cost of winning was greater than the cost of losing. Jedi were taught that it was always best to end things peacefully than to win or lose. Many young Jedi, lacking in self-restraint, were always ready to ignite their lightsabers and plunge straight into battle. They perceived a goal and rushed towards it without any consideration for unseen dangers or other options. And so Jedi were taught that speed did not necessarily lead to success. Many inexperienced Force-sensitive used the Force to satisfy their curiosity, probing into business of others. Intruding gave the clear message that the Jedi felt they were above others' privacy. Jedi were taught that although using the Force to discreetly uncover the secrets of others may have been occasionally necessary, it should never become a matter of course, as it would cause great distrust in the Jedi in general. A Jedi taught to use the Force for knowledge and defense, never for aggression or personal gain. Corollary of the Jedi Code was a Jedi does not act for personal power. A sizable number of Jedi in training confused the meanings of attack, defense, and aggression. Thus, younglings were taught that it was possible for a Jedi to strike without aggression, so long as they acted without recklessness, hatred, or anger. A Jedi was permitted to kill in self-defense, but only if there was no other option. To conquer aggression, even in combat, a Jedi must have explored every other option, including surrender, before resorting to using lethal force. killing opponents should never become commonplace. Jedi who depended on murder were drifted towards the dark side of the Force. A Jedi taught not to kill an unarmed opponent nor take revenge, such as the way Anakin Skywalker executed Count Dooku and massacred Tusken Raiders. Similarly, Jedi did not believe in killing their prisoners. While a Jedi is free to have connections with others outside of the Order, they were expected to remove as many external distractions from their life as possible. For that reason, the Order only accepted potential Padawans while they were still children. They were too young to have already formed strong relationships, and forbidden them from forming attached relationships later in life. Jedi were not allowed to marry without special permission, like in the case of the Jedi Ki-Adi-Mundi, who was allowed to marry several Syrian women because of his people's low birth rate. By giving up marriage, Jedi avoided attachment more easily, and according to Vergier, it helped in preventing the creation of dynasties of strong Force sensitives. However, in many periods of the Order's history, such as the era prior to Exar Kun and Luke Skywalker's reformed Jedi Order, marriage was permitted. Jedi were forbidden from taking a political appointment. They were taught that their loyalty was to be to the Force, the Jedi Order, the Republic, and to themselves, in that order. Nor were they allowed to accept gifts. The latter did not include the traditional Padawan gift given to the students of their masters, and presents given to them out of gratitude. Jedi were discouraged from keeping more than a few essential belongings. There were two reasons for this. First, because they distracted a Jedi from the Force, and second, because as they emerged through the ranks, Jedi were required to leave for missions with extremely short notice, so having many objects was a burden. It was rare for a Jedi to possess more than they could carry on their person at one time. However, a Jedi is allowed to keep personal belongings, such as accessories connected to free time activities, and in the case of the young, toys. Once a Jedi had mastered self-discipline, they could begin to accept responsibility for their actions. Jedi who shunned responsibility were never trained, and Jedi who embraced it were never denied training. Honesty was the first responsibility that aspiring Jedi were taught. Jedi were permitted to stretch the truth if the situation required it of them. However, this was to be done as sparingly as possible. An honest Jedi was always truthful with himself, his master, and the council. Jedi were taught that if they make a promise, they should always have been prepared to keep it, or else to have made amends. Thus, a Jedi should never have made a promise he or she was not certain they could keep. Jedi were encouraged to consult their master before making a promise. Jedi Masters were required to know that they must treat their Padawan with respect. They should never reprimand their Padawan in public, nor punish their Padawan for disagreeing with them. On the other hand, a Master should praise their Padawan, especially in the presence of others. This built the Padawan's confidence and strengthened the bond between master and apprentice. By the same token, Padawans were expected to show great respect to their masters, especially in front of others. Padawans were taught never to disgrace their masters to the point of argument, and that when they were in discussion with others, Padawans should only address their masters when they had been addressed themselves. This spared the master having to apologize for his master's behavior. Or, switch that. This spared the master from having to apologize for the Padawan's behavior. Although the Jedi High Council was the ultimate authority of the Jedi Order, it was impossible for the High Counselors to be everywhere at once. Therefore, when the Council sent a Jedi on a mission, the Jedi spoke for and was a representative of the Jedi Council. The Council was forced to answer for the Jedi's words and answers. So the Jedi would have been careful not to put the Council in a difficult position, as to do so would be to show terrible disrespect to the Council. Every action a Jedi made reflected the Order. Good deeds boosted the Order's reputation, but poor behavior sometimes caused incurable damage. Jedi were taught to remember that each person that they might not have set eyes upon a Jedi before, and that the acts of the particular Jedi that person would influence their perception of the Jedi Order as a whole. One of the most important roles of the Jedi was to protect the peace and justice of the Republic, and so no Jedi was above the law. Jedi were expected to follow the law the same as they expected others to. Jedi were permitted to break laws, but only when it was required and only if they were willing to accept the consequences. Jedi were expected never to commit murder for any reason. However, if confronted with a life or death struggle, a Jedi was permitted to kill to complete their mission. This act was not encouraged, as ending a life strengthened the dark side. However, if the act was justified, if the Jedi was acting in self-defense, in the defense of others, then the light side was equally strengthened. The Jedi were expected to reflect on those they killed during their meditations until they knew that their death was necessary. A Jedi who did not see murder as a matter of concern was set on the path to the dark side. Although the Jedi existed to serve the Force, they were funded by the Senate because they served the public interest. If Jedi were unable to use the Force, they would continue to serve because that was their duty. The fact that the Force was real and that the Jedi were its most prolific and devoted practitioners only strengthened their resolve to use it for good. Although the Jedi and the Republic were dissimilar and the Jedi Order had no authority over the Republic, the Jedi served the Republic and were expected to uphold the laws and ideals and to protect its citizens. However, members of the Order held no rank in Republic hierarchy and only served when asked. At all other times they stepped aside. This strange agreement between the two parties had stood for so long that no one knew how or why it started. Jedi were obliged to help those in need of aid whenever possible and were expected to be able to prioritize quickly. The Jedi were taught that while saving one life was important, saving many lives was even more so. This principle did not mean a Jedi had to abandon other goals in every circumstance, but merely that a Jedi must do their best to make sure that they aided those who were most in need of assistance. Similarly, a Jedi was expected to defend the weak from those who oppress them, ranging from small-scale suffering at the hands of an individual to large-scale enslavement of an entire species. However, Jedi were taught to remember that all may not have been as it seemed, and that they should respect other cultures, even if they clashed with the Jedi's moral or ethical code. Jedi were warned not to act in areas out of their jurisdiction, and to always consider the ramifications and political conquests of their actions. At times, it was necessary for a Jedi to stand aside and let others defend the weak, even if the Jedi felt that they could do a superior job. Jedi were taught that they should assist by word or action as required by the situation, offering advice when requested to do so, warning when necessary, and arguing only when reason failed. Jedi should remember that they wielded the marvelous tool of the Force, and that they should be prepared to use it only for good. The Crystal Code was a mantra traditionally recited by a Jedi while witnessing their student assembling their lightsaber. However, this was not a constant, as separate tradition held that Jedi students should fabricate and assemble their lightsabers in private without their master's guidance or intervention. The Crystal Code states the following: the crystal is the heart of the blade. The heart is the crystal of the Jedi. The Jedi is the crystal of the Force. The Force is the blade of the heart. All are intertwined. The crystal, the blade, the Jedi. You are one. Jedi were taught to accept the inherent dark side within themselves and conquer it, and not let it conquer them. Fear of loss, anger, hate, jealousy, greed, and aggression. All of the dark side had to be stripped from its influence over a Jedi through patience and training. When the Jedi Code forbade possession and attachment, the Jedi were encouraged and trained to love in terms of compassion. Indeed, Jedi Master Zalam Makri explained the code to her apprentice, Kavmo Zink, simply noted that a Jedi was allowed to like people and things, but they could not allow those attachments to consume them. Jedi Knight Indira Stokes stated that love, experiencing and embracing joy, affection, and even grief was part of the light side. However, a Jedi could not be slave to those emotions. Attachment was the inability to accept change as the fundamental characteristic of life. To accept death as the natural part of life, the inability to let go. Feeding into fear of loss and greed, leading to jealousy, attachment was selfish. a shadow of greed and thus a path to the dark side of the Force. Therefore, attachment was forbidden for a Jedi who had to train themselves to let go of everything that they were afraid to lose, to renounce all attachments. Thus, they could be compassionate and loving and caring, but not be possessive and grabbing and holding on to things, trying to keep them frozen in time, accepting the transitional nature of life. This allowed them to love the totality of life unconditionally, without selectively choosing individual life forms to become selfishly attached to. Members of the Jedi Order considered each other family and sometimes were even truly related by blood. Jedi Masters developed strong, trusting, and loving bonds with their apprentices, whom they raised, being like a parent to them. However, they were not supposed to form attachments for the greater good. They had to be able to let go of their apprentice and to not sacrifice 1,000 lives just to save one. The Jedi considered romantic feelings natural, and as such, they did not outright prohibit them. According to Jedi Master Obi-Wan Kenobi, however, they were not supposed to enter a romantic relationship. It was essential for a Jedi Knight to make the right choice for the Order and not neglect their Jedi duties in the favor of their beloved, even if that would mean the end of the relationship. Jedi Knight Rael Averross believed that the Jedi Code permitted casual sexual relationships as long as the Jedi did not form attachments. Averross had such a relationship with Selby, an innkeeper on Pijal, when he served as Lord Regent of that planet. His friend and fellow Jedi Qui-Gon Jinn did not agree with this belief. The Jedi were encouraged to rely on their instincts over their mind. They held their emotions valuable, but were also warned to be mindful of them, for they could cloud their judgment. A Jedi has to maintain a sense of quiet mind in order to stand on the light side instead of the dark. Thus, they were able to keep the Force within them in balance. The Jedi knew that the universe was far from static, and the way of the Force was that all life forms eventually must die. They had a strong faith in the Force and found comfort in knowing that upon dying, they, just like all things that ever lived, would be transformed into the cosmic force, the wellspring from which the living force emanated, becoming one with it. Therefore, they saw death as a natural part of life. Despite being saddened by it, they were advised to remember that one day they would pass on and rejoice and celebrate those around them who had passed away and become one with the Force, instead of grieving and missing them. The fear of losing the living to inevitable death was attachment, the shadow of greed. The evolution of the Jedi Code spanned centuries and was driven by the Jedi Order's goal of remaining true to the light side of the Force by rejecting all paths to the dark side. The modern Jedi Code was believed to have been written by Jedi Master Odan Ur, believing that using the Force was dangerous to the overall universe, and having fallen in love with the Padawan Kevmo Zink, Martyro of the Path of the Open Hand, believed that she would be able to convince Zink to reject the ways of the Jedi, so he could be with her and join the path. Ultimately, however, Zink was killed by the Great Leveler, but Ro blamed the Jedi for his death by claiming they had brainwashed him into the wrong ideology. Although the Jedi Code required adherence from all members of the Jedi Order, Jedi Master Qui-Gon Jinn was better known for his efforts to follow the will of the Force than the tenets of the Code. Jinn's willingness to defy the Jedi High Council put him at odds with the Order's leadership, as well as his Padawan Obi-Wan Kenobi, who believed that his master would have served on the High Council if he had followed the Code. During the final years of the Galactic Republic, Jinn offered to train the Chosen One, Anakin Skywalker, but the High Council rejected his proposal, citing the Code's restriction against training multiple Padawans. By the end of the invasion of Naboo, however, the High Council permitted Kenobi to train Skywalker in place of Jinn, who was killed by the Sith apprentice Darth Maul. During the Clone Wars, Republic Captain Wilhuff Tarkin believed that the Jedi Code prevented the Order from doing what was necessary to win the war against the Confederacy of Independent Systems. While Jedi General Obi-Wan Kenobi regarded the officer's views on the Code as simplistic, Tarkin felt that the Jedi should be relieved of their authority over the Grand Army of the Republic, a notion that Jedi Commander Ahsoka Tano disagreed with. Shortly before the end of the Clone Wars, Anakin Skywalker was tasked by Kenobi and the other members of the Jedi Council to spy on his friend, Supreme Chancellor Sheev Palpatine, something which Skywalker felt was against the Jedi Code. As part of his efforts to rebuild the Jedi Order, Jedi Master Luke Skywalker trained his apprentices to practice the ways of the Jedi. Due to his unorthodox training as a Jedi, Skywalker sought to provide his disciples with a traditional path into the Order. As a Jedi, Skywalker conformed to the tenets of the Jedi Code and expected the same devotion from his pupils, including his nephew Ben Solo. Having devoted his life to the Jedi way, Skywalker abstained from romantic relationships, eschewed past friendships, and worked hard to restore the Order. Adherence to the Jedi tenets brought satisfaction to his life, although Skywalker felt a degree of guilt over the length of time that he spent away from his friends, notwithstanding his commitment to the Jedi's Code's stance against personal connections. In 34 ABY, Rey heard the soft chanting of the Jedi Code emanating from the tree library that contained the original Jedi texts on Ahch-To. The chanting compelled her to enter the library, where she found the text and began learning more about the history of the Jedi Order from Luke Skywalker. The Jedi Code was first mentioned in the 1999 film, Star Wars Episode I, The Phantom Menace. However, the Code's concept harkens back to early drafts for the 1980 film, Star Wars Episode V, The Empire Strikes Back, in which Luke Skywalker takes the Jedi Oath before traveling to Cloud City in order to save his friends. The "There is no emotion, there is peace" version of the Code first appeared in the 1987 Star Wars The Role-Playing Game. It was there accompanied by a set of practical rules more akin to a code of conduct, such as not acting for personal gain or trying as hard as possible to persevere or It was there accompanied by a set of practical rules more akin to a code of conduct, such as not acting for personal gain or trying as hard as possible to preserve life, while acknowledging that killing may at times be necessary. While the mantra part of the code lived on in later materials, the code of conduct passed into obscurity. The emotion yet peace version of the mantra first showed up in the role-playing game sourcebook, Tales of the Jedi Companion from 1996. The Jedi teaching on not forming attachments was misunderstood and misinterpreted in a number of Legends materials, using attachment in terms of fondness, affection, love, or loving commitment, stating that the Jedi were forbidding these emotional bonds. On the contrary, George Lucas explained, the Jedi were trained, allowed to, and expected to love people, even their enemies, the Sith. But they were not supposed to form attachments, because attachment led to the dark side of the Force. When one possessed or had some other attachment to something, be it pleasure, a person, or experience, one became afraid to lose it. The fear of loss fed into greed. An attached person was selfish and unable to let go. This turned into anger, which would lead to hate, and hate would lead to suffering, mostly on the part of the one who is selfish, because then one would spend their lives being afraid rather than actually living. But compassion was caring and giving, and thus it was love. But as the opposite of attachment, it was everlasting joy, devoid of fear of loss and the pain of loss. As long as you love other people and treat them kindly, you won't be afraid. George Lucas, identifying himself as a Buddhist Methodist or Methodist Buddhist, stated that his philosophy depicted in his movies was influenced by the fact that he was from San Francisco, the Zen Buddhism capital of the United States. In 2020, he indicated that the Jedi were designed to be a Buddhist monk who happened to be very good at fighting. Before I get into this part of the theory, I want to remind you, do not look at the timestamp. I didn't ramble on and on about Qui-Gon Jinn or the Jedi. I have been working on the script for this video essay for a long time, and I've been putting a lot of effort into making this video. This is a quick reminder that if you want to see more of this type of thing, more on my channel, you can let me know by leaving a comment on this video and subscribing to the channel. I do try and release videos every week here, and I try to look for new ways to make them more entertaining for all of you. I do have a lot of things planned for this channel, and I want to make a lot longer videos on this channel, and I want to make more video series as well. I'm trying to do more when it comes to this channel, and I'm trying to make more videos that you all enjoy. Qui-Gon Jinn did offer to train Anakin Skywalker, even though he still had Obi-Wan Kenobi as a Padawan, which I had covered previously here. He was willing to go against the Jedi Council's rules about training multiple Padawans at the same time. This is not the first time Qui-Gon has gone against the wishes of the Council. Having said that, Qui-Gon Jinn going against the wishes of the Council does not necessarily mean that he's a Sith, nor does it necessarily mean that he is or is not a Jedi. This simply means that Qui-Gon Jinn did not agree with the Council's decision to train Anakin. Qui-Gon Jinn, through his training of Obi-Wan, did grow attached to Qui-Gon Jinn, both Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan grew attached to each other, and through the limited contact with Anakin Skywalker, Qui-Gon did become attached to him as well. Although he was attached to Kenobi and Skywalker, he was able to keep them both at arm's length. The attachment Qui-Gon Jinn had towards the two people was mainly due to the amount of compassion that Qui-Gon Jinn had towards both Kenobi and Skywalker. Qui-Gon Jinn also allowed himself to feel emotion, even though the Council didn't allow its members to indulge emotion. Even if he didn't show emotion in the same way many other people did, he still felt emotion strongly. As I said before, the fact that he felt emotion strongly and often acted upon it still shows that he consistently went against what the Jedi Council said, and often said that he went against the Council's wishes in order to do what was right. The main reason I've noticed that Qui-Gon Jinn went against the Council's orders so often is because the Jedi Council's ruled to complete adherence to the rules, which some would describe to be very cult-like. The trouble with the term cult is that it lacks proper definition. The line between a religion and a cult typically begins and ends with popularity. Many of the largest modern religious groups in the world today did begin as cults. The term is almost exclusively reserved to be as a pejorative for illicit organizations. Colloquially, a cult is a group with a charismatic leader that forces its members to do bad things. The details can vary widely, and some definitions exclude well-known examples. People in cults do tend to avoid the term, and very religious people tend to be very liberal with it. The term is open, and it's fair to say that the early Jedi Order could fall on either side of the spectrum, or anywhere in between. The Jedi Order has some qualities of a cult, but it also has a lot of qualities that distance it from that concept. If you want me to make videos in the future talking about whether the Jedi Order is a cult, please let me know in the comment section or over on the Discord. I do make these videos for all of you, and I want to hear what you want me to make a video about. I've been wanting to make a video or a series about many other topics for a long time, and I do want to hear what you think. I'm giving all of this information regarding the Jedi and the Sith and about Qui-Gon Jinn, all because I'm trying to finish working on my theory and give an ultimatum on whether or not he is a Jedi or a Sith or something else, in my opinion. There's a lot of information to go through that may or may not influence my decision in the future, and the theory could change once I make my final decision, even after I release the video about who Qui-Gon Jinn actually is. Just based on this information that I have given, I want to say that Qui-Gon Jinn is not a Sith, as he allows the Force to flow through him instead of attempting to control it in the same way Sith do. Although he's considered by many to be a Jedi, he also relies more on emotion in addition to the instinct that guides the Jedi, although he does not allow his feelings to control him in the way the Sith do. In a way, Qui-Gon Jinn didn't have peace with death, as he came back as a Force ghost. Qui-Gon Jinn appeared in the Obi-Wan Kenobi series, even if only for several seconds, in order to give advice to Obi-Wan Kenobi. This was after Obi-Wan did all the events of the season 1 of the series, and he didn't actually speak all that much in the show, so one can speculate as to why Qui-Gon Jinn actually came back to visit Kenobi. But Master Qui-Gon was back for some reason in the season finale of Kenobi. On that note, one can only assume that Qui-Gon Jinn was not at peace with something when he returned. Part of the Jedi code is there is no emotion, there is peace. And since we can only assume that he was not at peace with something when he came back, we can assume that a person with the skill of Qui-Gon Jinn who is not at peace is truly not a Jedi, even when they claim that they are. I think that I did go a little bit crazy while writing this video series. I may not have gone as crazy in this section as I did in other sections, and I do want to say that this theory about Qui-Gon is far from being over. I did still make this for all of you, just like I had promised I would, and I hope that you really enjoy it quite a bit. If someone who is crazy goes crazy, does that mean that they go even crazier, or does that mean they get any saner? Because some people would call me crazy, and I went crazy writing this script. I mean, I really want to know. And I hope somebody has an answer to that question. Now, I do want to clarify that this video is only part of the series. I do have a playlist on my channel, and I do plan on releasing more videos about this. If you do want to see more videos as they come out, please subscribe to my channel. If you want to see what I think about Qui-Gon Jinn, please subscribe. Please let me know your ideas. And I do believe there's a lot that can change about my theories just based on what information I have and what information you all do give. I do also want to clarify that I will give my full opinion on this topic at the end of this series, so feel free to tune into the rest of the series when I release more videos on this channel. I would really appreciate it, so don't be shy about hitting that subscribe button. I mean, it is only one click and you get a bunch of videos to go with it. I know that I've mentioned this before, but I do also have a Discord page for all of you to reach out and communicate. Not only with myself, but with other people. It is only my intent to give people a community with the other people that enjoy the same things. I have a lot that I want to talk about on my Discord, and I want to let everyone know that I do spend a lot of time on my Discord as well. I even have a lot of different topics for people to talk about. Having said that, I want to say that just because I have my Discord page open for everyone to join, as long as the rules are being followed. I really do enjoy hearing what people have to say, and I do try to make my Discord open for everyone to communicate. I have a lot of different things for people to talk about if anyone does decide to come and join my Discord, including other topics that I could use for upcoming videos. Please feel free to come over to my Discord and talk about almost anything. I know that I've talked about Discord quite a bit recently, but I want to remind people that I do spend a lot of time over there. In fact, I want to say that YouTube doesn't always send out notifications even if you do subscribe and hit that bell button. I do have it set up where I have the notifications set to ping on my Discord as well for all the people that are members of my Discord channel. I do also give you a chance to tell me which videos I should release for you next, assuming I do have enough scripts written for you to choose from. I do try to have multiple scripts written for you to choose from, so I will always make an attempt to have multiple scripts written and ready to film, so I will have multiple choices for you to choose from on the Discord over there. It isn't my intent to say whether this theory is accurate in any way. I'm just giving my opinion, and I'm still working out the kinks in the theory as well. Having said that, I'm also not claiming that this is the only time this theory has been made. Having said that, I do want to say that I am making this theory because I do enjoy talking about this stuff. And I enjoy making theories like this because it gives me an extra reason to think. Having said that, I'm not expecting y'all to come over to my Discord. So I do want to say that you can hit the subscribe button to my YouTube channel and hit the bell notification button. I am making an attempt to release at least one video per week on this channel, and I'm looking for people who enjoy the videos to come be a part of the community that I'm trying to build. I wish that I could come up with a guarantee for all of you right now, but I am making an attempt to come up with something to guarantee to all of you. If you have any ideas for me on different things that I can offer all of you, feel free to let me know, either in the comments section of this video or over on my Discord. I do try to post a lot of stuff on my Discord, as I said before, and I'm over on my Discord quite often. Whenever I'm able to do so, I've been trying to be more active on social media, and I've been wanting to interact with you a lot more, especially there as well. I do look forward to talking with all of you and seeing what you have to say, not only about my videos, but about everything else that is going on. I hope that we have a fun ride with everything that's hopefully going to happen on this channel. I hope I can motivate all of you to motivate me to keep going on this channel, and I hope to continue providing excellent content that continues to get better with every video.